The glass walls of the server room reflected Maya Crane's pale face back at her. Garrett Pierce's hand tightened around her wrist, his polished cufflinks catching the fluorescent light. The bruise was already forming, a dark purple bloom against her skin. "You think a janitor's word matters?" Garrett's voice scraped like gravel against metal. "You'll take the fall for the embezzlement, or you'll disappear." Maya's breath came in short gasps. The pressure on her wrist increased until white spots danced at the edges of her vision. Her worn sneakers squeaked against the polished floor as she tried to pull away. "I saw what you did, Garrett." Her voice was steadier than she felt. "The numbers don't lie." His predatory smile widened. The smell of tobacco and expensive cologne made her stomach turn. Behind him, Tyler Hunt filled the doorway, arms crossed, blocking the only exit. The head of security's shadow stretched across the server racks like a prison bar. Maya's free hand fumbled in her uniform pocket. Her fingers found her phone. 3 weeks ago, she'd found a number scratched into the maintenance desk in the sub-basement. Just 10 digits and 2 words. Real help. She'd thought it was a whistleblower hotline. She pressed send without looking. The fluorescent lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. The hum of 1,000 servers turned into something else. A low, mournful whine that made Maya's teeth ache. The temperature plummeted. Her breath misted in front of her face. "What the hell?" Garrett's grip loosened. The emergency lights kicked in, bathing everything in red. Frost crept across the glass walls in delicate patterns. Maya watched ice crystals form on the nearest server rack, spreading like a living thing. Thousands of floors above, in a penthouse that touched the clouds, an ancient phone vibrated. Dorian Vale lifted his head. The device on his desk hadn't made a sound in a century. He picked it up with the fingers that remembered when this city was just mud and wooden posts. The message was simple. A location, nothing more. He smiled, and the shadows in his office deepened. In the server room, the darkness in the corner moved. Not like a person stepping forward, like the absence of light decided to take shape. Garrett spun toward it. "Who the hell are you? Security!" Tyler tried to move toward the shape. His boots wouldn't lift. He looked down. Ice had formed around his feet, fusing them to the floor. He pulled harder. The ice didn't crack. The shadow resolved into a man. Dorian Vale wore a charcoal suit with no visible seams. His skin was pale, not like someone who avoided the sun, but like someone who'd forgotten what warmth felt like. He stood perfectly still. No rise and fall of breath. No fidgeting. Just absolute predatory stillness. He walked past Garrett as if the CEO didn't exist. His eyes found Maya. They weren't quite human. The color shifted between silver and deep violet, like stars reflected in dark water. He moved with deliberate grace, each step measured until he stood directly in front of her. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Garrett's voice had lost its gravel. Fear made it thin. "This is private property. I'll have you arrested." Dorian didn't turn, didn't acknowledge the threat. He reached out, his fingers hovering just above Maya's bruised wrist. The cold radiating from his skin made her shiver. But it didn't hurt. It felt like relief. "You called for help." His voice was quiet, but it filled the room. "I haven't heard that frequency in 100 years. Maya stared at him. Up close, she could see the impossible details. His suit had no wrinkles. His hair fell in perfect dark waves. There was no pulse visible at his throat. "Who did this to you?" He still hadn't looked at Garrett. Maya's voice cracked. "He wants to frame me for stealing, but I saw him. I saw him move the money." Dorian's head tilted slightly. The temperature dropped another 10 degrees. Garrett's breath came out in ragged clouds. Tyler's face had gone grey. The silent king finally turned his gaze to Garrett Pierce. The air became heavy, thick, like trying to breathe underwater. Garrett stumbled backward, his offensive shoes slipping on frost-covered tile. The predatory smile was gone. His hands shook. "Please." The word came out as a wheeze. "I don't know what you want. Money? I have money." Dorian's expression didn't change. He looked at Garrett the way someone might look at an insect. Mildly curious, mostly indifferent. He turned back to Maya. "If you come with me, he will never see the sun again." His star-colored eyes held hers. "If you stay, you die in a cell. Choose." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. The dark circles under her eyes felt heavier. She'd been cleaning floors for 3 years, invisible to everyone who mattered. She'd found the evidence by accident, tucked in a trash bin Garrett thought had been emptied. She'd tried to do the right thing, and it had nearly killed her. She looked at Garrett, at his expensive suit and his trembling hands, at Tyler, still frozen to the floor, eyes wide with primal terror, at the server room that had become her cage. Then she looked at Dorian, at the ancient thing wearing a man's shape, at the promise of protection in those inhuman eyes. "I choose you," she whispered. Dorian's lips curved into something that might have been a smile. He extended his hand, palm up. Maya placed her shaking fingers in his. His skin was cold as marble and just as smooth. "Wise," he said softly. He turned to face Garrett and Tyler. The shadows in the room deepened, reaching out like grasping fingers. The frost on the glass walls thickened into opaque ice. "You hurt what is now mine." Dorian's voice dropped to something below human hearing. Maya felt it in her chest, a vibration that made her bones ache. "That requires correction." Garrett tried to run. His legs wouldn't move. The air around him had solidified into something viscous and wrong. He opened his mouth to scream. No sound came out. Dorian raised his furry hand. The gesture was small, almost casual. The emergency lights exploded in showers of red sparks. True darkness swallowed the room. Maya heard Garrett's muffled whimper, heard Tyler's desperate, gasping breaths, heard the creak of ice spreading across every surface. She felt Dorian's thumb brush across her bruised wrist. The pain vanished. "Close your eyes," he murmured. "What comes next is not for you to see." Maya squeezed her eyes shut. Her worn sneakers left the ground. Dorian was lifting her, cradling her against his chest, like she weighed nothing. The cold from his body seeped through her faded uniform, but it didn't hurt. It felt safe. Behind them, Garrett finally found his voice. The scream was high and broken, cut off almost immediately by a wet, tearing sound. Then silence. Dorian moved through the darkness with impossible speed. Maya kept her eyes closed, feeling the rush of displaced air, the sensation of falling upward. The smell of ozone and old stone replaced the sterile scent of the server room. When she finally opened her eyes, they were somewhere else entirely. A penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city spread out below like a carpet of lights. The obsidian canopy of the night sky pressed against the glass. Everything was dark wood and deep shadows, elegant and ancient. Dorian set her down gently on a leather sofa. He stepped back, giving her space. His charcoal suit was pristine. No blood. No evidence of what had just happened. "You're safe now." He moved to a cabinet, pulling out a crystal decanter. "They will not touch you again." Maya's hands wouldn't stop shaking. The adrenaline of survival was wearing off, leaving her hollow and cold. "What? What did you do to them? What they deserved?" Dorian poured amber liquid into a glass. He brought it to her, pressing it into her trembling hands. "Drink. It will help." She took a sip. Whiskey. Expensive. It burned going down, but the warmth was welcome. "What are you?" He sat in a chair across from her, that unnatural stillness settling over him again. "I am the king of this city's shadows. I have been for 300 years. Maya stared at him, at the weight of centuries in his eyes, at the way the darkness seemed to bend toward him like it recognized its master. "And I'm..." She looked down at her uniform, at her worn sneakers, at the fading bruise on her wrist. "I'm nobody." "You called for help." Dorian leaned forward slightly. "That makes you someone who matters." The city lights glittered below them. Maya took another sip of whiskey, feeling the warmth spread through her chest. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out. 17 missed calls from Sterling Dynamics. 3 from the police. 1 news alert. CEO Garrett Pierce and head of security, Tyler Hunt, missing after office hours. Her breath caught. Dorian watched her with those star-colored eyes. They will never find them. The building has many dark corners, many forgotten spaces. Maya should have been horrified, should have run, should have called the police herself. Instead, she felt something else, something fierce and burning that she'd buried under 3 years of scrubbing floors and being invisible. Relief. "What happens now?" she asked. Dorian stood, moving to the window. The city stretched out beneath him, every light a life, every shadow a secret. "Now, you rest. Tomorrow, we discuss the terms of your new employment." "Employment?" He glanced back at her. "You saw corruption and tried to expose it. That takes courage, intelligence, qualities I value." His reflection in the glass was faint, barely there. "I have need of someone who can move through the world of daylight, someone the humans will not suspect." Maya's heart raced. "You want me to work for you?" "I want you to be my eyes in the sun." He turned fully to face her. "In exchange, you will have my protection, my resources, and the satisfaction of bringing justice to those who believe themselves untouchable." The whiskey glass felt warm in her hands. Outside, the starless vault of the sky pressed down on the city. Somewhere, the penthouse shouldn't exist. Maya pressed her palm against the window, feeling the cold glass beneath her fingertips. 60 floors below, the city sprawled like scattered diamonds. But this place, this Gothic sanctuary perched atop a building of steel and glass, felt carved from another century entirely. The walls were lined with books, Not the decorative kind rich people bought by the yard. Real books. First editions with cracked spines and gold leaf pages. The air smelled like rain and old ink. Like libraries that remembered when paper was precious. She caught her reflection in the black glass. A girl in a stained cleaning uniform stood next to something that wore the shape of a man. The contrast was absurd. Her worn sneakers next to his polished shoes. Her faded polyester next to his tailored perfection. "You're shaking." The Ancient One's voice came from directly behind her. Maya hadn't heard him move. She turned. He stood 3 feet away, holding a bundle of dark fabric and a small wooden box. "The adrenaline is leaving your system." He set the items on a nearby chair. "Your body is processing the trauma." The silk robe he'd laid out caught the dim light. Deep burgundy, like wine held up to candlelight. Next to it, the first aid kit looked almost mundane. White plastic and red crosses. "Sit." He gestured to the leather sofa. Maya's legs moved before her brain caught up. She sank into cushions that felt like they cost more than her yearly salary. The Shadow Sovereign knelt in front of her, the wooden box open in his hands. He pulled out a cloth that looked ordinary until it touched her skin. The fabric felt like liquid air, cool and weightless. He wrapped it around her bruised wrist with movements so precise they seemed choreographed. His fingers never quite touched her skin, maintaining a hair's breadth of distance. "Why help me?" The words tumbled out before she could stop them. "I'm nothing." A janitor who stumbled onto something she shouldn't have seen. His hands stilled. The cloth hung suspended around her wrist. He looked up at her with those star-colored eyes, and the weight of centuries pressed down on the space between them. "Show me your palm." Maya blinked. "What?" "Your left palm. Show me." She turned her hand over. The scar was barely visible in the low light. A thin white line that curved from her thumb to her pinky. She'd gotten it as a kid, climbing a fence she had no business climbing. The Ancient One's thumb traced the luminescent mark. His touch was cold, not painful cold. The cold of marble statues and winter mornings. His skin felt impossibly smooth, like he'd been carved rather than born. "You are a crane." His voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. "Your blood is the reason I built this city." Maya's breath caught. "What are you talking about?" 300 years ago, a woman named Eleanor Crane saved my life." He continued, tracing the scar, his movements hypnotic. "She found me in an alley, burned by sunlight, hunted by my own kind. She hid me in her cellar, fed me, protected me. The temperature in the room dropped. Frost began forming delicate patterns on the windows. I built this city for her. Every street, every building. A kingdom of shadows where she could walk safely." His thumb pressed gently against the center of her palm. "She bore a daughter. That daughter bore another." The line continued, marked by this scar. A genetic echo of the wound Eleanor received defending me. Maya stared at the white line on her hand. She'd never thought about it. Just another childhood injury in a life full of them. "You are the only thing in this world that isn't nothing." The silent king released her hand. "You are the last crane. The end of a bloodline I swore to protect." He stood, moving to the cabinet where he'd gotten the whiskey. This time he poured 2 glasses. He brought one to her, then settled into the chair across from her. Maya took a sip. The burn helped ground her. If you've been watching over my family, where were you when my mum died? When I lost our apartment? When I had to drop out of school to work 3 jobs? I forgot. The admission came out flat, emotionless. I stayed silent to watch the city grow, but it grew rot instead. Corruption, cruelty. The humans I protected became predators themselves. He swirled the whiskey in his glass but didn't drink. Maya wondered if he even could. I retreated into the shadows, stopped answering calls for help, stopped caring. His gaze fixed on something beyond the windows. 300 years is a long time to guard something. Eventually, you forget why you started. The city lights reflected in his eyes like distant stars. Your text. He finally looked at her. It was a spark in a cold tomb. A frequency I programmed into that phone when Eleanor was still alive. I never thought I'd hear it again. Maya's chest tightened. So you came because of some ancient debt? I came because I forgot what it felt like to have something worth guarding. The Shadow Sovereign set his glass down. And then I saw you. Bruised. Terrified. Fighting anyway. He stood, crossed the space between them in 2 silent strides, knelt again in front of her. This time he leaned in close. The scent of ozone intensified, electric and sharp. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Every instinct screamed at her to pull back, to run, to put distance between herself and this predator wearing a man's face. But she didn't move. The Ancient One's eyes shifted from silver to deep violet. His lips parted slightly, revealing teeth that were just a fraction too sharp. He tilted his head, bringing his face to the curve of her neck. Maya felt his breath against her skin, cold, deliberate. He breathed in slowly, a predator's form of a caress, tasting her scent without touchings, learning her. You smell like fear and fury. His voice vibrated against her throat, like someone who's been beaten down but refuses to break. Maya's hands gripped the edge of the sofa. Are you going to bite me? No. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. You are not food. You are not prey. You are the reason I still exist. He stood, putting distance between them again. The cold receded slightly. Maya could breathe. The robe is for you. He gestured to the burgundy silk. There's a bathroom through that door. Shower, rest. Tomorrow we begin your training. Training for what? To be my eyes in the daylight. The silent king moved to the windows, his reflection barely visible in the glass. To hunt the corrupt. To bring justice to those who believe themselves untouchable. Maya looked down at her stained uniform, at the worn sneakers that had carried her through 3 years of invisible servitude, at the fading bruise on her wrist that no longer hurt. And if I say no, then I will ensure you are safe. Give you money. A new identity. You can disappear into a quiet life somewhere far from here. He turned to face her. But we both know you won't choose that. He was right. The fury that had been building for 3 years, every dismissive glance, every cruel word, every moment of being treated like furniture, burned hot in her chest. I want them to pay. Her voice came out steady, strong. All of them. Everyone like Garrett who thinks they can hurt people and walk away. The Ancient One's lips curved into something that might have been a smile. Then we are in agreement. Maya stood. Her legs felt steadier now. She picked up the silk robe, feeling the fabric slide through her fingers like water. One condition. She met his star-colored gaze. You teach me everything. How to move like you. How to see what you see. I won't be helpless again. You were never helpless. The Shadow Sovereign crossed his arms. You called for help. That takes more courage than most possess. I want more than courage. Maya moved toward the bathroom and Gia. I want Bawardka. The word hung in the air between them. Heavy. Dangerous. Power has a price. His voice followed her. Are you willing to pay it? Maya paused in the doorway. She looked but back at him. At the ancient thing that had built a city for a woman who'd shown him kindness. At the predator who'd answered her call when no one else would. I already paid it. She touched the fading bruise on her wrist. The moment Garrett put his hands on me, the moment I realized the system would never protect someone like me. She stepped into the bathroom and closed the door. The shower was marble and gold. The water pressure was perfect. Maya stood under the spray, watching 3 years of grime and exhaustion swirl down the drain. When she emerged, wrapped in the burgundy robe that felt like wearing clouds, she found fresh clothes laid out on the bed, black pants, a fitted shirt, boots that looked like they'd actually fit. The penthouse was quiet. Too quiet. Maya walked back to the main room. The Ancient One stood at the window, perfectly still. No rise and fall of breath. No fidgeting. Just that absolute, predatory stillness that marked him as something other. Can I ask you something? She moved to stand beside him. Yes. Do you miss it? Being human soon? He was silent for a long moment. The city lights glittered below the bed as like a carpet of broken promises. I miss the sun. His reflection in the glass was barely dinner. I miss the warmth of it on my skin, the way it made colors brighter, more real. What's it like? Living in darkness, the glass shattered inward, not from impact, from pressure. Like the air itself had decided the windows were an insult. Maya spun from where she'd been standing, the question about darkness dying on her lips. Shards hung suspended for a heartbeat, catching the city lights like 1,000 falling stars. Then they dropped. The Ancient One moved before the first piece hit the floor. His hand closed around Maya's arm, pulling her behind him. The cold radiating from his body intensified until her breath came out in white clouds. A figure stepped through the broken window. He wore a suit that might have been expensive once. Now, the fabric hung wrong, like it couldn't quite remember what shape it was supposed to hold. His hair was dark, slicked back with something that caught the light too wetly. When he smiled, his teeth were too white, too sharp, filed to points. Dorian. The name slithered out like oil on water. You've grown soft for a mortal whelp. Behind him, more shapes poured through the shattered window. Men in tactical gear, faces blank, eyes glazed. They moved with the jerky precision of puppets. Maya counted 6, 7, 8. Tyler Hunt stepped through last. The head of security's face was grey. Veins stood out black against his skin, spreading from his temples like cracks in porcelain. His eyes had gone completely red. Hand her over. The first figure, Rowan, Maya's mind supplied, spread his arms wide. Maybe I'll let you keep your penthouse. The Shadow Sovereign's grip on Maya's arm tightened. Not painful, protective. You brought human filth into her presence. His voice dropped below human hearing. The windows that remained intact began to crack. You will regret that choice. Rowan laughed. The sound echoed wrong, like 1,000 whispers trying to form one voice. The great silent king, reduced to playing bodyguard for a janitor. How the mighty have fallen. The Ancient One moved so fast Maya didn't see it. One moment he stood in front of her. The next, he was across the room, his hand around Rowan's throat, lifting him off the ground. Run! The word came out distorted. Ancient. The door behind the bookshelf. Now. Maya's feet wouldn't move. She watched as Rowan's face turned purple, his sharp teeth snapping at empty air. The mercenaries raised their weapons. Tactical rifles. Military grade, they pulled the triggers. Nothing happened. The guns clicked. Jammed. The metal itself seemed to rebel. Barrels warping. Mechanisms seizing. One rifle simply fell apart in its wielder's hands, components scattering across the floor like dropped coins. Maya! The Ancient One's voice cracked like thunder. Go! She ran. Her boots, the new ones he'd laid out, found traction on the polished floor. Behind her, she heard the wet sound of Rowan hitting a wall. Heard the mercenaries' confused shouts. Heard Tyler's voice, higher than it should be, screaming orders that made no sense. The bookshelf stood floor to ceiling, leather spines gleaming in the dim light. Maya's shaking hands found the edge. She pulled. It swung open on silent hinges. A narrow space beyond. Reinforced steel walls. A single chair. A panel of the one-way glass that looked back into the main room. The Ancient One appeared in the doorway. His suit was still pristine. No blood. No sign of the violence happening behind him. But his eyes had gone completely black, like staring into deep space. Do not look out the glass. His hand pressed against her shoulder, guiding her inside, no matter what you hear. Dorian, I will come for you. He stepped back. I swear it. The door swung shut. The lock engaged with a sound like a bank vault closing. Maya pressed her hands against the steel, feeling the cold metal beneath her palms. Through the one-way glass, she could see everything. The Shadow Sovereign turned to face the intruders. His shadow expanded. Not like a normal shadow cast by light. Like darkness itself was pouring out of him, filling the room, swallowing the city lights beyond the broken windows. The temperature plummeted. Frost spread across every surface in delicate, deadly patterns. Rowan pulled himself up from where he'd been thrown. His suit was torn now, revealing skin that looked more like bark than flesh. You think you can... The Ancient One moved. Maya had seen him move fast before. This was different. This was a predator unleashed. He crossed the space between them in less than a blink, his fist connecting with Rowan's chest. The impact sent the rival king flying backward through the already shattered window. The mercenaries opened fire again. This time, the bullets left the barrels. Maya watched them hang in the air, suspended in the expanding darkness like insects in amber. The Shadow Sovereign walked through them. Each bullet that touched his shadow simply stopped existing, dissolving into nothing. He reached the first mercenary. His hand closed around the man's throat. The glazed look in the soldier's eyes cleared for just a moment. long enough for real terror to register, before the darkness swallowed him whole. When it receded, the mercenary was gone. Just tactical gear in a heap on the floor. The others tried to run. The darkness caught them. Maya watched it move like a living thing. Tendrils of absolute black wrapping around legs, arms, throats. The mercenaries' screams cut off one by one. Their empty uniforms joined the first. Tyler backed toward the service elevator. The Ancient One's head turned, tracked the movement. His lips pulled back, revealing teeth that were definitely not human anymore. Fangs. Long and curved and designed for tearing. You helped them hurt her. The words came out wrong, layered. Like multiple voices speaking at once. You held the door while he bruised her wrist. Tyler's hand fumbled for something on his belt. A device. Small. Black. He pressed a button. The sound hit like a physical wall. High-pitched. Ultrasonic. Maya felt it even through the reinforced walls. A pressure that made her teeth ache and her vision blur. She pressed her hands over her ears, but it didn't help. The Ancient One staggered. His shadow flickered, contracted. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked vulnerable. He dropped to one knee, hands pressed against his temples. Rowan climbed back through the window. His face was a ruin, jaw hanging at the wrong angle, one eye socket empty. But he was laughing, that thousand-whisper sound filling the spaces between the sonic assault. Specialized frequency. He limped forward. Took me 50 years to develop. Disrupts your kind's neural patterns. Makes you almost human again. The Shadow Sovereign tried to stand. Fell. The darkness around him guttered like a dying flame. Tyler moved to the panic room door. Maya's heart stopped. The steel was thick, reinforced, but Tyler pulled another device from his belt. This one looked like a shaped charge. He pressed it against the lock. No! The word came out as a whisper. Maya backed away from the door. No! 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 The charge detonated. The sound was muffled, but final. The lock mechanism sparked, smoking. Tyler grabbed the handle and pulled. The door swung open. Maya tried to run deeper into the small space. There was nowhere to go. Tyler's hand closed around her arm, the same arm Garrett had bruised, and yanked her forward. Sterling wants you dead. His voice was flat. Dead. The red in his eyes pulsed with each word. Rowan wants you as a trophy. I'm just the one getting paid. He dragged her toward the service elevator. Maya fought, kicking, clawing at his arm. Her nails drew blood. Tyler didn't even flinch. The veins spreading from his temples pulsed darker. Through the chaos, she saw the Ancient One on the floor. His black eyes found hers. The agony in them was worse than any physical pain she'd ever felt. His mouth moved. No sound came out, but she could read his lips. I'm sorry. Tyler pulled her into the elevator. Hit the button. The door started to close. Maya screamed. The sound tore from her throat, raw and desperate. She lunged for the closing gap, but Tyler's grip was iron. The last thing she saw before the door sealed was the Shadow Sovereign trying to stand, his shadow flickering weakly around him, and Rowan's ruined face splitting into a smile. The elevator dropped. Maya's stomach lurched. Tyler's grip shifted, one hand wrapping around her throat. Not squeezing, just holding. A promise of what would come if she tried to fight. 40 floors to the parking garage. His voice was still that terrible flat monotone. Then we take you somewhere quiet. Somewhere he can't follow. The elevator's fluorescent lights flickered. Maya watched the floor numbers tick down. 38, 37, 36. Her hand slipped into her pocket. The phone was still there. Cracked screen. Battery at 12%. But functional. She couldn't call for help. The ancient one was already fighting. Already losing. But maybe she could leave a trail. Her thumb found the camera app. She angled the phone, trying to capture Tyler's face, the elevator panel, anything that might tell someone where she'd gone. The flash was off. The image was dark, blurry, but it was something. 24 floors. 23. 22. Tyler's hand tightened on her throat. Drop the phone. Maya's fingers went numb. The device clattered to the elevator floor. Tyler crushed it under his boot. The screen splintered, went dark. You're alone now. He leaned close. His breath smelled like copper and rot. No ancient king to save you. No evidence to expose us. Just you and the people who want you gone. The elevator shuddered, slowed. The number 17 glowed on the panel. Then the lights went out. Complete darkness. Absolute. The kind that pressed against your eyes and made you question if they were even open. Tyler's grip loosened. Just a fraction. What the... The elevator cables screamed. Not breaking, freezing, Maya heard the metal contract. Heard ice spreading across the shaft above them. The temperature dropped so fast, her breath turned to fog. Tyler let go completely. Stumbled backward. No, he can't. The frequency... The elevator stopped falling, held suspended by cables that had turned to solid ice. Maya felt the cold seeping through the floor, through her boots, into her bones. A voice echoed down the shaft, distorted, ancient, furious. You took what is mine! The elevator doors exploded outward. The rooftop wind screamed. Tyler dragged Maya across the helipad, his grip bruising her upper arm. The Sterling Dynamics logo stretched beneath her boots. 50 stories of glass and steel dropping away on all sides. Garrett Pierce stood beside a black helicopter, its blades spinning in lazy circles. About time. Garrett's voice cut through the wind. He'd changed into a fresh suit, navy pinstripe. Like the last hour hadn't happened at all. Tyler shoved Maya forward. She stumbled, caught herself. The concrete was cold beneath her palms. Get her in the chopper! Garrett checked his watch. We're 3 minutes behind scheduled, sirs. The pilot revved the engine. The blades spun faster, cutting the air with rhythmic thumps. Maya's hair whipped across her face as she tasted copper and fear. Then the sound stopped. Not faded. Stopped. Like someone had hit pause on reality. The blaze hung motionless, still spinning, but frozen mid-rotation. Ice spread from the rotor hub in crystalline spirals, locking each blade in place. The metal groaned under the sudden cold. Garrett spun toward the roof access door. What the hell? He stood at the helipad's edge, the ancient one, perfectly still against the starless vault above. His eyes burned with abyssal violet light that made Maya's chest ache just to look at. The temperature plummeted. Her breath came out in white clouds. You took her from my home. His voice carried despite the wind. That was unwise. Garrett backed toward the helicopter. His polished shoes slipped on frost that hadn't been there seconds before. This is my building. My property. You have no authority here. The Shadow Sovereign stepped onto the helipad. The reinforced concrete cracked beneath his foot. Not from weight. From cold so intense it shattered molecular bonds. Frost spread in jagged lines, racing toward Garrett like grasping fingers. I built this city. Another step. Another crack. Every street, every foundation, this ground is mine. Tyler pulled his sidearm. The metal stuck to his palm, frozen to his skin. He screamed, trying to shake it loose. The gun clattered to the concrete, taking strips of flesh with it. Garrett's predatory smile was gone. His hands shook as he fumbled in his jacket. Wait, we can negotiate. I'll give you the company. Full ownership. Just take her and go. The Ancient One stopped 3 feet away. His shadow expanded, not cast by light, pouring from him like liquid darkness. It spread across the helipad, swallowing the logo, the helicopter, everything. You offered her life as a sacrifice for your greed. His voice dropped below human hearing. Maya felt it in her bones. Now, your greed will be your tomb. He gestured, small, almost casual. The shadows at the building's edge rose up, solid, real. They wrapped around Garrett's legs like iron chains, yanking him off his feet. He hit the concrete hard. His expensive watch shattered. No! Garrett clawed at the rooftop. His manicured nails scraped against frost. You can't do this! I have lawyers, connections! The shadows dragged him toward the air conditioning vents, massive industrial units that fed the entire building. Garrett's fingers found purchase on a drainage grate, the metal bent under his grip. The Ancient One knelt beside him. Look at her. His hand closed around Garrett's jaw, forcing his head to turn. Look at what you tried to destroy. Garrett's eyes met Maya's. The terror in them was absolute, primal, the kind that came from finally understanding you were prey. I am the owner of this ground. The Shadow Sovereign's grip tightened, and she is the owner of my heart. Your tenure is over. He didn't bite, didn't tear, just released Garrett's jaw and stood. The shadows pulled harder. Garrett's grip on the grate failed. He slid across the frost-covered concrete, screaming as the darkness fed him into the ventilation system. His screams echoed through the ductwork, growing fainter until they became part of the building's ambient hum. The vent cover sealed shut behind him. Frost welded it in place. Maya stared at the spot where Garrett had disappeared. Her legs wouldn't hold her. She sank to her knees on the frozen concrete. The Ancient One turned to Tyler. The head of security had backed against the helicopter. Blood dripped from his palm where the gun had frozen to his skin. The red veins spreading from his temples pulsed faster. Come here. The command wasn't loud, didn't need to be. Tyler's legs moved without his permission. Jerky, puppet-like. He stopped directly in front of the Shadow Sovereign, trembling so hard his teeth chattered. Look at her! The Ancient One's hand pressed against the back of Tyler's skull. Tell her your crimes. Tyler's mouth opened. The words came out strangled. I held the door. When Garrett grabbed you, I blocked the exit so you couldn't run. Continue. The pressure on his skull increased. I helped him frame you for the embezzlement. Planted evidence in your locker. Deleted the security footage that would have cleared you. Tyler's voice cracked. I knew you were innocent. I didn't care. Maya pushed herself to her feet. Her boots found traction on the ice. She walked forward until she stood directly in front of Tyler. Up close, she could see the black veins spreading across his face. Whatever Rowan had done to him was eating him from the inside. Why? Her voice came out steady, stronger than she felt. Money. Tyler's red eyes leaked tears. Garrett paid me $50,000 to make you disappear. Said you were a threat to the company. I needed the money. My daughter's medical bills. Stop. Maya held up her hand. Don't make excuses. The Ancient One's grip on Tyler's skull tightened. Does he live to face a human court, or does he feed the city's rats? The question hung in the frozen air. Maya looked at Tyler, at the terror in his corrupted eyes, at the blood still dripping from his ruined palm. She thought about Garrett's predatory smile, about the bruise on her wrist, about 3 years of being invisible while people like them walked free. Let the law have him. The words tasted like ash. He's too small for your mercy. The Shadow Sovereign nodded once. His hand released Tyler's skull. Tyler collapsed. His legs gave out completely. He lay on the frozen concrete, gasping. As the black veins across his face began to recede, whatever supernatural hold had been on him was breaking. You will confess everything. The Ancient One's voice wrapped around Tyler like a noose. Every crime, every bribe, every life you helped destroy, and you will do it without the comfort of forgetting. He gestured. The ice around Tyler's body thickened, locking him in place. Not crushing, just holding. A prison of frost that would melt slowly enough for the police to find him. The Ancient One turned to Maya. His violet eyes had dimmed to their usual star-colored silver. The shadows receded, pulling back into him like a tide. Are you hurt? His hand reached toward her face, but stopped just short of touching. Maya shook her head. Words wouldn't come. The adrenaline was leaving her system again, replaced by something that felt like vertigo. She'd just watched a man get fed to a building, had sentenced another to prison with 3 words. Come. The Shadow Sovereign's arm wrapped around her shoulders. This place reeks of corruption. We're going home. The darkness swallowed them both. 1 month later, Maya sat in the corner office on the 60th floor. The same office where Garrett Pierce had once made decisions that destroyed lives. But the nameplate on the door was different now. Crane Vale Holdings. The mahogany desk was the same. The leather chair. The floor-to-ceiling windows that showed the city spread out like scattered diamonds. But everything else had changed. The walls were lined with photographs. Not corporate headshots. Real pictures. Workers on construction sites. Janitors in break rooms. Security guards on night shift. The people who actually made the city function. Maya's worn sneakers were gone. She wore boots now, real ones that fit. But she'd kept the faded uniform in her closet, a reminder of where she'd started. The door opened without a knock. The Ancient One stepped inside. He wore a different suit today, charcoal grey instead of black. His hair fell in perfect dark waves, no pulse visible at his throat. The board meeting went well. He moved to stand behind her chair. They voted unanimously to implement the new wage structure. Maya leaned back. His hands settled on her shoulders. Cold, steady, exactly where they belonged. Garrett's lawyers tried to file an injunction. She gestured to the stack of papers on her desk, claimed the company was stolen through coercion. And? Judge threw it out. Hard to claim coercion when you're currently serving 20 years for embezzlement and attempted murder. Maya smiled. Tyler's testimony was very thorough. The Ancient One's thumb traced small circles against her collarbone. Through the fabric of her shirt, she could feel the cold radiating from his skin. It didn't hurt anymore. It felt like safety. The city is quiet now. His voice was soft, almost human. The corrupt are afraid. The workers are protected. Are you content? Maya reached up. Her fingers laced through his. The temperature difference between their skin should have been uncomfortable. Instead, it felt right, balanced. I'm more than content. She turned her head to look at him. I'm home. His star-colored eyes held hers. The weight of centuries in them, but also something newer. Something that hadn't been there when they'd first met in that frozen server room. Purpose. They looked out over the city together. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. In another hour, true darkness would fall. The Ancient One's time, when he could move through the streets without pain, dispensing justice to those who thought themselves untouchable. But for now, he stood in the dying light, his hands on her shoulders, his shadow stretching across the office floor. Maya squeezed his fingers once. He squeezed back. Below them, the city hummed with life. Every light a person, every shadow a secret. And at the top of it all, in an office that used to belong to a predator, two figures stood silhouetted against the sunset. The last Crane and the king who'd built a city for her bloodline, finally home.